he's kind of a movie killer. Like whenever he's a lead or close to it in a movie, the movie just kind of tanks. Um, and I mean, he hasn't done that many TV shows, but it sounds like it's kind of carrying over into TV shows. And I like Jude Law.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who doesn't care about when McDonald's has their Shamrock Shakes. He always just goes ahead and orders one anyways, even when it's not seasonal, just because he wants to challenge the people there. Nick, how you doing?
Doing good. All the Shamrock Shake supplies that have ever existed and will ever exist um, were were all produced in 1997. All McDonald's have a basement that has or an attic, but usually it's a basement that has the Shamrock Shake stuff in it, and somebody there knows how to get to it. It may not be the person you're talking to when you walk in the door, but somebody knows how to get to it. If you go in there and you say, I want Shamrock Shake, and you just keep asking to speak to a higher and higher level manager, eventually, even if even if whoever knows is not there that day, they will get the supervisor on the phone. The supervisor will go, okay, yeah, I know what this is about. And they will tell them, and they'll go down, they'll get it, and you'll get your Shamrock Shake.
Funny thing about that is when I happened to finally get back from Japan, when I moved back to the States, it was like the beginning of March, and we had a transfer flight in Detroit, so we had to wait a little bit. We went to the McDonald's and we were like, yeah, we'll have a Shamrock Shake. My wife and I just split one. We're like, we thought about just doing one each. We're like, no, we'll just split it. It's fine. We'll get more later. And then they quickly ran out right after. I'm like, we hadn't even touched ours yet. We're like, we should like, but a lot of people were seriously asking for it. Like, should we just try to resell ours right here, like, untouched? But at the same time, it was just like it was funny because we drank it. We were like, all right, it's one of those few things you don't really get mint flavored stuff. I mean, Japan started getting mint. They started having like a mint seasonal thing, but their McDonald's never had the Shamrock Shake, and it's one of those things. There's a lot of things that you don't care about in the U.S. or when you near your home, but when you can't get them anymore, you're like, now I kind of want it because I just can't have it.
Yeah.
In Korea, it was like I think it was French onion chips,
Mhm.
and it was like A&W or just root beer in general. Like, it's like you couldn't get root beer. And so all of a sudden you started wanting that more, even though you may not be the biggest fan of it. And yeah, so it's just like I hadn't had a Shamrock Shake in years. And then we tried ordering one like when we went to Georgia later, like not even a week later. And we went to three different McDonald's. None of them had it. We're like, what the crap? It was super weird. Like, is it just a local thing? Do they just hate mints?
I
Work
mean,
of the devil?
I'm not really familiar with everything that McDonald's puts out, but I have not ever seen a Shamrock Shake at McDonald's. Actually, I kind of do. It kind of does look familiar. I just never thought to order one. It's very green, so
You
not.
know it's good for you then.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely know it's good for you then.
It's
Yeah,
like it's like a
I've never
Ninja
thought to order
Turtle
one.
mutagen green. Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty. Yeah, it's kind of nuclear green almost. But yeah, well, yeah, mint. Mint is one of those things that you kind of either really, really like it or you don't. I like a good mint chocolate ice cream. Um, though it's been a while since I had one. I think it's very easy to make a bad mint chocolate ice cream, and I've had plenty of that too. But like, I think Ben and Jerry's had like a chocolate with like mint nuggets in it, and that was one of the best I've ever had because it was like, okay, this is chocolate, and when I want mint, it is there to for the taking. Um, yeah. Anyway, so that's my opinion about mint in food.
All right. Well, anyways, yeah, we usually talk about video games, so why don't we get onto that and talk about the news?
Yeah,
Nick,
we'll
what do you
talk.
got for us?
There's quite a bit of little video game news. I didn't really think there'd be all that much, but there's quite a bit. And then there's some other non-video game news that happened upon that I'll share at the end of this section. But basically, since Monster Hunter Wilds like just popped, um, as you know, as of basically today that we are recording this, so there's a lot of Monster Hunter news. Not all of it is good. Um, there are several different things here. So first of all, people are upset. Maybe it's too strong a word. Perturbed about how Capcom is charging for uh, character edit vouchers again. So basically, you get one free change of your character, like editing them on a, like I said, deeper level. There's certain things that are kind of closed off. Some things are pretty, you can change anytime, but some of the, I guess, bigger changes um, are closed off, and you get one free voucher, and then after that, it's like $7 to change your character, and then it's $10 if you want to change both your character and and your palico, um, and but you can also, I think it's still $7 to change just your palico or something like that. But anyway, that they have the pricing for it set up, but people are kind of mad about that. Apparently, it's been in both Rise and in World, so it's not really anything new, but it is like people are just like, this is this is just a needless microtransaction, um, and I mean, it does sound like that. I mean, it sounds like they're just kind of trying to siphon money off of you, um, while not like ruining your enjoyment of the game or whatever, but sort of like it's kind of like picking your PlayStation name. You need to be pretty careful about it, because if you're going to want to change it again, you're going to have to pay money in order to do that. So yeah, it's just like when I read that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of stupid.
Yeah, honestly, I can't remember ever changing my character in the first one. Or Worlds, I should say, Monster Hunter Worlds. I didn't play Rise, and um, I don't remember when they came out with further cosmetics and like emote packs and stuff like that. I believe when you if you purchase those, they would give you another one free. I think it's been, like I said, it's been a long time, but it is kind of skeezy that you can't just change it on the fly. If you wanted to try out new styles, new looks, um, you know, I guess you just got to make your character and be done with it. But at the same time, I don't know. The game's never been much of a fashion Souls kind of thing. I mean, as far as you can get skins, so you can no matter what armor you have. So if you don't like the way the armor looks, you can wear certain outfits. I remember that's kind of how the um, some of the special event, like collaborations they did, where they're like, yeah, it's technically a skin that you wear over whatever armor set. So you just have to, remember what your base is. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Uh, I actually like that. I think was it Harry Potter probably did it the best, where you can wear whatever you want, and you can, so long as you own it, you can just swap the skin for it, and that's like an old MMO, tactic, which I really like. Um,
Yeah,
but Monster Hunter is all about, like, hey, I built this, and I need to flaunt it. Um, but most people who only bought the deluxe edition wanted, like, from the comments I had seen on Reddit, where I bought the deluxe edition because I wanted the hairstyles,
yeah,
because they added two new hairstyles, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that for your character, but some of the stuff they always added were like different face paints and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I guess if you're role playing into that character and you want it like, you know, uh, the Norse mythology, like facial tats and stuff like that from the other games, I can see that being appealing. Like once I make my original character, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm good. I don't really need to touch you ever again. That's kind of how I end up playing it. But then
yeah,
again,
yeah. I
like,
mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, um, like it is what it is. I just feel like $7 is not really much of a microtransaction to me. That's it's a bit more macro. Like I think if anything over $5 is something I have to. I don't know. It's not like I'm gonna miss it all that much, but it's like I'm spending $5 on what again? If it's like $1, I'd be like, yeah, it's whatever. I'm not even. I'm.
Yeah,
It's gonna not. It's not even worth the
one to
irritation.
three change, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
1 to 3. 5 is where like, hang on, what am I really getting here? Anything more than 5, and I'm like, I mean, there are freaking games on sale on PlayStation like all the time for $7 that I actually want to play, you know. So that's so like $7 is better spent on something like that to me. Um, and 10 is like okay, I guess. But then again, I guess if I've played 40 hours and I'm really tired of the way this character looks, or I had like a really freaking good idea for how to do whatever, and I'm going to play another 100 hours of this game, then yeah, I'd probably like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I love it and all that stuff. I wouldn't feel bad about throwing more money at it, but it's just kind of silly. Um, there's a couple other things here. Monster Hunter Wild still selling well. It is selling well, but it's come out to mixed reviews on Steam due to PC performance. Apparently, it's the other ones have had this too. They're just not particularly running all that great on PC. I'm not really sure what the details are, but the reviews are mixed. Even though it is like, I think it's top selling right now, and it has like more playtime than some other games, some of the like really big games that came out, not or that have like really high play times or something on them too. So so yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag there. And then two other little things that I thought were just kind of funny. So this is Monster Hunter Wilds adjacent. The developers over at Pow World, um, they the director or whatever, he gave all of his employees or whatever the day off on the day that Monster Hunter Wilds was released, because he was getting mysterious sick notes from employees where they were saying that they were pretty sure that they were going to feel unwell on February 28th, the day that the game came out. So he was like, okay, so we're just going to cancel work that day. And I was like, that's a nice story. It makes me smile, because it's like, yeah, these people are freaking video game addicts. That's why they have. That's why they ended up getting into development in the first place. So it makes sense they would be. And then Power World. I mean, obviously it's not exactly like Monster Hunter, but you can definitely see why that probably all those people, if they're working on Power World, at one point or another had a severe addiction to games like Monster Hunter or Monster Hunter itself. Anyway, so I thought it was kind of funny. And then the other thing is that a lot of reporters are saying that the Monster Hunter Wilds is kind of too easy. They're like, yeah, it's pretty easy, and people are kind of worried about it being too easy. The reporter that wrote the article I was reading about that said that he did think it was, he or she, I forget which, but they did think it was easy, or at least he didn't like it didn't say easy, but they were like, yeah, I've kind of I've had the way they worded it was like, I've had like a simple time, or a straightforward time going through it, but it's been no less fun. So basically saying, yeah, it hasn't been super hard, but they are still having a lot of fun with it. So I know back in the day, like Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter, those old Monster Hunter games were like kind of inscrutably hard. Like from the stuff I heard, I never played them, but that was sort of the thing. Was like, oh, these games are freaking amazing, but you better be ready for 120 hours, minimum, and really like 20 or 30 hours of figuring out what you're really doing. So I guess if you came from that time period, then yeah, it would probably seem like these games are maybe very easy or something. But Yeah. So anyway, all that is to say that Capcom heard some of the scuttlebutt about this and has said that there are harder bosses that are going to be coming through later releases for the game. So yeah, that's all the Monster Hunter Wilds news that I have.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Unite for the PSP was
Right.
annoyingly difficult if you didn't know what you're getting into. Back then, you had to tag, tag the monsters. You have to like, if I remember correctly, you'd like throw a paintball at them or something like that. Um, I the traversal and to going from point A to point B, trying to follow the monsters. Uh, it was not for me at the time for sure. So when they came out with World was a lot more streamlined in that sense. They did make things a lot more user friendly. I honestly don't mind the fact that if they make it a little more, dumb it down a little bit just to make it easier for people again, because the grind is still going to be there, and with RNG, I have very bad luck at that, and it's always the worst thing is you're spending all this time. Uh, yeah, so for some it's rewarding, but when you're having to grind X amount for a low percentage drop material to complete your armor set, uh, and you're killing the same thing upteenth amount of times, and trying to do it with your party, and trying to get your friends to be like, I really want to complete my set here,
Come on,
guys,
guys.
please.
Please
Just
help me do
yeah.
this really boring thing. And it's like for the stupid video game, for the stupid virtual armor set. Yeah, the argument for that really contests some friendships, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And then you have your friend who's just like, he's like, I know we're doing this big boss battle, but I want to try out this new weapon. And I'm like, dude, you don't even have that weapon leveled, and you have no idea how to use it. Don't do it. Like, no, I'm gonna bring it into this new battle. I'm like, I hate you so much right now. It's like, sorry guys, I died. I failed this out. I'm like,
Wonder why.
yeah. You shouldn't I shouldn't be friends with you is what the answer to that is. I should not be friends with you, but I still am, and you owe me. But yes. So yeah, for sure, testing friendships. But at the same time, some friends come out of the woodwork and be like, dude, I ended up playing this whole thing solo, and I'm like, you did what
Why
now?
would you do
Uh,
that?
it's it's
Those
amazing.
are the hardcore players.
Yeah, just and a buddy of mine never played it and got into Worlds, and all of a sudden like yeah, let's meet up, and I'm like how hey yeah, so how far are you? Like end game, and I was just like what the crap? Yeah, it was pretty brutal. It was pretty amazing watching them play. But the other thing is maybe main two different style things, so you have a little more flexibility to play with your different parties.
Yeah.
uh, that way not everyone's running in with blades. For me, I chose hammer because no one chooses hammer,
Mm.
and sometimes you need to break stuff. But and I've always have seemed to have a party member with a blade to cut tails or cut limbs off. But when you need to break a horn for that gear, that's where I come in handy. And that's pretty much why I main hammer. But yeah, it's one of those. It's a good game. I recommend. This is probably the best way to to jump on if no one's ever jumped on before. And just you know, uh, the Palicos, two people are almost like I would say two or four if you're playing with friends is probably the key. Three is a little weird because, or at least the previous games, they would cut off your Palicos. But if you had two people, you can still both party members could still have their Palicos with them, and that was pretty nice. When you had three, then you couldn't bring any extra ads, so that was kind of iffy. So, anyways, I hope you guys have fun with it. Oh, we're going to be playing it in the near future, and I'm pretty sure we'll have some fun stories to talk about it. So,
Oh yeah, we're gonna be diving in hard on this here Monster Hunter Wilds.
all right, what else you got for us, man?
Um, Warner Brothers cancels Wonder Woman and shuts down three studios, which are Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB San Diego. Um, and so yeah, the kind of thing with the Wonder Woman is I did read a little bit of a headline. Somebody apparently close to the project said that Wonder Woman was looking really good in development and stuff like that. At least for their opinion, I think they said it was beautiful and cool or something like that. So anyway, that's kind of sad to see that go. But kind of part of the reason for that sadness is that it was going to have either it was going to have the Nemesis system or the next advancement in the Nemesis system, which was introduced in Shadow of Mordor back in the day, and that people really were raving about and loved so much. And the thing is uh, that that Nemesis system is patented, so people can't just go and develop it. They can't use it. And the patent does not expire until 2036. So it'll probably still be WB that does something with it before anybody else can. But it's just sort of like, dang it, man! Like we just have to. I mean, because that was pretty cool. I mean, that system was pretty cool. I remember playing that game and being like, oh, that is kind of nice. But it'll probably be WB that does anything with it before anybody else can. So that's just kind of something that people are kind of mad about.
Yeah, Monolith Studios, they made a lot of good stuff. I mean, I personally really love them for making Fear. Like I remember Fear was one of the was like the first game I got to play on at that time. I bought myself a brand new gaming, PC, and I played that with headphones on, and it was a great game. I absolutely loved that game. So it was way more terrifying. I mean, it's in looking back on it, it was like, yeah, it only had a couple key moments, but it was weird. It had, hit all the right notes and things like that weren't really done before. And then they went from that to doing Condemned Criminal Origin on Xbox 360, and that's still a great game. Uh, awesome, like melee fighting mechanics, super like creepy. Yeah, so they had like a great foundation. So anything after that, I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm totally backing them up. And then they came out with Shadow of Mordor. So and that game was it was funny because for me, the way I played the game, I felt like I was playing it broken, in a way like I can't be playing this the way it's supposed to be or meant to be played, but it's still effective. And I just remember luring guys in and just like shanking them in a bush. I'd get spotted. Someone would be like, "Hey, what's that?" And I'd run around in a circle, then just shank that guy. And just I did that like 5 times, 6 times in a row. Or when you eventually get like one of the more elite, soldiers or something like that, and then they kill you, and or they get all, you meet them again, they just start just talking trash to you, and then you finally get to murder them, and you're like, yes, revenge. But then they come back later on and they're all scarred up, and yeah, it was a really cool, neat system. The effects of like fear and what scares them, they're like, this person's just scared of fire, so you start lighting fires and then they freak out, and
It is kind of
yeah, that was
weird.
a
I mean, it
wild.
is kind of weird that it was patented. I mean, I get it, but it's you don't really see very many game systems that get patented. There was that loading screen Galaga thing famously for a long time
Mini
where
game. Yeah.
yeah, where it was like, oh, you can play Galaga on the loading screen. Well, like that, like doing that was like patented, so nobody could do that back when loading screens were a really kind of a big deal. Now they're not really as much of a factor, really at all. But back then, whenever loading screens were, you know, half a minute to a minute or so long, it would be really handy to kind of play a little bit of Galaga or some other simple game while you wait. That patent finally did expire, and I think it's been used a little bit here and there, but it's kind of it's just but most of the time it is rare to see you know systems get patented. I mean, Fortnite is famous for Fortnite. Maybe I'm blaming Fortnite a little bit, but Fortnite or maybe like World of Warcraft. Um, I'm pretty sure one of those games or both those games are famous for seeing what other companies are doing and that are similar, and then just kind of rewriting some code and putting that in their game. So basically, they're just kind of, I mean, like stealing features. So it's just weird to me that like Warner Brothers was able to patent that system where a lot of other companies and stuff are not able to patent the computer stuff that they think of. And I guess it probably just depends on how many lawyers you have and how much money you're willing to throw at it. But yeah, so
Not necessarily. I mean, just recently, this last month, or I think it was like I just at least that's when I discovered it. Nintendo like filed 23 patents to try to, you know, more or less it just it's not, outright, but it seems like they're trying to mess with Pal World, and they only got like one patent, successfully put through, but 22 patents failed. And one of the patents was to try to patent the concept of capturing things in spheres. Uh,
mm,
so it's just like, yeah, Nintendo, way to be pro people, but no, it's just like you guys kind of suck. Um,
yeah, it's
you
I
know,
mean it's just I guess that I mean the
it's like
patent game
it's
I
like
have heard.
Candy Crush trying to patent the word candy, like
Yeah,
try
I mean patents are tricky. Like you have to get it in early, and it has to be really it's supposed to be really specific and stuff like that. I know I've heard different dissenting opinions on patents and how basically like patents kind of killed or prevented the United States um, from leading the way in the airplane industry um, back whenever airplanes were very first invented. You know what like 1912 or whatever, the Wright brothers. So basically, like the Wright brothers. I don't want to get off on this too much, but basically the Wright brothers they invented a plane and then they didn't do anything like smart with it. Like they just are like, oh, we can kind of fly, and then they didn't really do anything with it. The concept of like airlines and like commercial jets and stuff like that, or commercial flight and stuff, I heard really came up in France where they didn't give a crap about American patents, and so they were able to like go on with that. But the moral of the story is that like the Wright brothers had all these patents on planes and stuff, so no one in the United States could do anything with it. And it was like, and it's like 20 years or something. It's like incredibly long amount of time. And I think it's grown since it was first inducted, but I think probably a decade is the very longest that needs to be. And really, in this day and age, a patent should probably only get you max 5 years. I could even see 3 years. It's like, hey, it's a technology patent. You got 3 years to like freaking make this, like make all the money you're gonna make because after that, like the idea needs to be out there to like see what everybody else can do with it. I'm sure there's like a better. I just think there's probably a better middle ground than like 20 years of people being able to sit on patents.
yeah. I I'm just gonna abstain from that conversation right there.
Tell like have an opinion, have an
But the
This is the
Nemesis
internet,
system
Joe. You have to
was
have
amazing,
you,
okay?
you look.
So that's what I'm saying. And yes, W like that thing is no people didn't realize it was the Nemesis system was patented for a while.
Yeah,
I remember like they were like, yeah, it's gonna be the next big thing, and then the second Middle Earth game came out, and they're like, okay, great. And now what's coming to come from it? And like nothing ever came from it, because it was like I think it was like 3 years later is when Shadow of War came out, and yeah, that was what 2017, 2018. Uh, so nothing. Like the entire time, no use of that system. You have a patent. You have a great, cool thing that is everyone thought was going to revolutionize like the open world combat like system. How cool would that be playing a GTA game or something, having like turf wars with people or something like that, or just any type of game. And it makes it makes you more interested in how the Wonder Woman game would have played out. I mean, because it's just if they're actually using some sort of variant on that. um I Wonder Woman as a concept, it's like, well, the whole DC catalog, it's like, oh, I don't really know too much. Like even if you used it in like a Batman Arkham style game, I'm like, I don't know how much I care about replaying a boss. And then if it's just like, Joker henchman number, 48, it's just like, well, because you have such iconic villains that you don't need the nemesis system. I mean, I guess it'd be fun it'd be fun slash funny if it's just like your third attempt on trying to beat this guy and he keeps on whooping you and you were like, you can make fun of you that much more, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, it was like I said, the reactionary. That's the thing is too is like the enemies and how they reacted to their fears or how they get hyped if like they're strong against something that was cool. Uh, but yeah, I mean, once again, 2014 is when the Nemesis system was introduced to us all, and we've only seen two games with it.
yeah.
So that's a waste of space. Um,
It's
and
WB,
if it's
man.
going to
They,
20, I mean, if they patented it back then, what 20? That's more. That's almost 30 years, or no, 22 years.
so what that game
Um,
come out in 2014 or whatever?
2014.
So
Yeah,
the game came out in
and if it's going
2014.
to
They're probably working on it for 3 years prior to that. So maybe it is 25 years. So 2011 to 2036 would be 25 years. If I don't know how all that works out, but
if they
it's
patented it before the game release, yeah, that something like that.
yeah,
But still, that's insane. It's a shame that you know a good studio like Monolith got shut down, and uh,
yeah,
I've you've been hearing this Wonder Woman game in the works for a while, so it's just kind of like, all right, well, it's WB has a great way of shutting down things that are in production.
yeah.
So way to just waste your property and waste your money. All right. Next story, buddy.
All right. So Assassin's Creed Shadows leaked a little bit earlier this week. I saw reporting on it on February 24th. So I think it was like over that weekend that it leaked with people streaming it, and then there was definitely some sort of sales of it on the street. But people were streaming it, and Ubisoft kind of addressed some of that stuff, basically just saying, "Hey, please don't spoil it for other people," um, which is probably the best thing, only thing that they can say. I think there are some streams that have been taken down, or some Reddit posts or whatever that have been taken down that were about it. But anyway, so it's out there. It's just it's just sad. I don't know how that. I mean, I can imagine how it happens, but it's just such a crappy thing. I know that studios really hate that because just it just cuts into sales, and it's like, gosh, you've been working on this thing for 3 years, and it's 3 years, 4 years, however long you've been working on it, and it's really big, and it's probably really good, and it's not going to make the sales, and because somebody can't keep their mouth shut slash can't keep from stealing it. So yeah, but so that kind of happened, and so they were trying to address it. Um, uh, the last couple things here, a little bit smaller, but Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy reportedly planning to retire at the end of 2025. I've probably given you my rant on Kathleen Kennedy at one point or another, Joe. So I won't do that.
Actually, you haven't about Kathleen Kennedy. You have about other directors and stuff, but not her herself. I have my own stance on this person, and
So
the yeah.
it's not so much her as it is George Lucas, but was she was chosen by George Lucas because she's the most like George Lucas. Because if you look, she's been there since like basically like the beginning of Star Wars. She has been around and doing stuff. So whenever George Lucas sold to Disney and then immediately named her president as he was retiring, it was basically him telling Disney, this is who I want to run this and take it over. So that put Disney in a really bad spot because it's like, well, we had ideas of who was going to run this stuff, but you've painted us into a corner because if we now get rid of Kathleen Kennedy or make her number two or whatever, we're basically telling the fans that we are that we are thumbing our nose at your wishes, and then they'll get mad at us if anything goes wrong. Well, that's what they should have done.
Yeah, because
In
under her guidance,
hindsight,
she ran the company and you ran it kind of right into the ground because like I just remember one of the first things they did were like, oh yeah, all the extended universe stuff doesn't matter. It's all garbage. And I'm like, man, I I wasn't really like I had roommates that would fill me in on all the books and all the backstories, and I'm like, I find the Star Wars universe itself really good. The story, the main movies are fine, but like the actual universe and all the extra things, you had the original like the KOTOR games and stuff like that. Like the concept is really awesome, and ever since Disney takeover, it's just been kind of like okay, enthusiasm slowly getting chipped away as the
it's
yeah
it's just too big. It's the goose that laid the golden egg, and and everybody has to get their greasy, grubby paws on it and get their notes put into the film in some way or another. And anyway. It was so it's not so much really her fault that she's really bad at this, but um, it just makes. I mean, it's still a George Lucas thing, but yeah. Anyway, so um, I mean, it doesn't matter now. I've already had at least two funerals, if not more, for Star Wars. So it doesn't really matter anymore. But I guess good riddance to Kathleen Kennedy. She's never done anything good to me, I guess, at least not since the 80s or 90s. But yeah, she'll be gone, and then they'll trot somebody else out there who, at this point, I mean, it's like it's it's a dead franchise to me. I mean, as far as like the like main movies are concerned. I'm actually going to talk about something here in a second that is not dead to me. I'll just go and shift over to that. Perfect segue.
well I'm just gonna yeah, it is a perfect segue and
That
I'm
you're
going
going
to
to ruin.
interrupt it.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's that's the thing. It's very much a I think at this point in the game most people have really just they're soured on Star Wars. I mean, yes, everyone who still loves Star Wars will only still go ahead and be like, I love the original the original trilogy. Some people are like, they'll still fight for episode one, two, and three, and then after that, people are just like, really, and it was a it's a shame that the thing that everyone grew up on has now turned into this muddled mess.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you can't. I mean, you can't really make anything else. Uh, I was listening to some people talk about Star Wars who are way more fanatic than I am, because I gave up on the series a while ago. I gave up before Solo. So like I couldn't even use that as my excuse. I was
Yeah.
just
I
like,
mean,
no, I'm done. So that's
you didn't
but
even
but
like Rogue One, so yeah.
yeah, Rogue One was shot neat, but I thought it was pointless, and it was just frivolous in my opinion. That's why I really that's what did it for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but I get then again, episode nine didn't really it wasn't that much further to push me off the edge. So,
The
yes,
dyad.
what you need to do is like what these other people were talking about was like, yeah, you need to just put the series on ice. Just don't touch it for like a decade, and then people will get nostalgia for it and they'll be like, yeah, that's remember that was great. Like, no, it wasn't, but just like everyone turned around on episode one being like, episode like Jar Jar is actually a really good character, and now we're gonna have all these fan theories about how great he might have been. um And it's like, no one's denied it, so it has to be true. I'm like, no, no, dude, you guys are hyping a fantasy. It's a delusion that you all want to share. And of course, the actor who played Jar Jar will kind of play into it a little bit because he doesn't want to be remembered as the thing at the time that killed Star Wars. Luckily, in hindsight, Jar Jar is not the worst thing that happened to Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy was. But anyways, the
Ironically,
yeah,
George Lucas was, but yeah, it's, well, I'll go into the next thing and kind of talk more about the other thing I would say.
the
So,
last good thing of Star Wars.
the TV show, the Star Wars property TV show called Andor, season 2 is starting April 22nd. And strangely enough, they're going to be releasing 3 episodes each week for 4 weeks to go through all 12 episodes. And I really liked the first season of this. I thought that like episode 1 and 2 of it were like slow, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be any good. And then they like somewhere in episode 2 or episode 3, they culminated some stuff, and I was, oh, okay, I see. This is actually pretty good. And then there's a bunch more stuff that happens in season 1 where I was like, okay, wow, this. Anyway, season 1, I was very impressed with. I was very enthusiastic about. So I am glad to see season 2. Back then, after season 1 ended, they said that there was only going to be one more season because it is running up into the story of Rogue One. So they're kind of running out of runway as it is, as it were. But yeah, so this is kind of releasing, I guess, almost a month and a half from now. So I'm pretty excited about it. But Andor and and the Mandalorian, that to me is the way that Star Wars needs to go, at least like you said, for a decade. Because I think that those shows are successful, and there are some that are very unsuccessful. I didn't watch The Acolyte, but haven't heard good things. And then Boba Fett was not good really until The Mandalorian came into it, and then it was okay. Other stuff like that, but basically, I think that when Star Wars does work, now it is on the smaller scale. It is on the more personal stories. Basically, for the same those things work basically for the same reason that the expanded universe, the Shadows of the Empire, or Knights of the Old Republic and stuff like that. Why that worked well when it did is because it was basically one writer or one creator with a vision, and just taking that world and like going, okay, I'm going to take this world and the rules in it, and I'm going to, carry my vision forward. And there's a lot of garbage in those as well, but people had a ton of fondness, and there's a lot of really great characters, and there's all kinds of. I mean, I haven't looked, but I'm positive there's all kinds of guides on Reddit for how to navigate, the best books in that series, or in that expanded universe. And I think that's the way that they need to go, with this stuff. So I'm excited for Andor, and just hope that it's more of the same as the first season was.
Yeah, I remember you telling me how much you liked it originally, and it was the only outside of the Mandalorian. It's the only thing that I've heard good from the Star Wars shows. I mean, I can't remember the I heard that the latest show that got canceled after season 1 was okay. It was the one with Jude Law, I think it was.
Oh, the
Uh,
kids one, yeah,
yeah, I heard it was decent. It's just that they didn't they didn't really have much of a leg to stand on after everyone hated the Acolyte.
yeah.
So it was just
Mm.
like it's an uphill battle. So and then most people were checking out already.
Yeah,
So
something I
yeah,
didn't know, but because I watched a YouTube video and I'm an expert on it, I didn't know this, but like, or I'd never put this together, but apparently, like, Jude Law is kind of he's kind of a movie killer. Like, whenever he's a lead or close to it in a movie, the movie just kind of tanks. Um, and I mean, he hasn't done that many TV shows, but it sounds like it's kind of carrying over into TV shows. And I like Jude Law. I like Jude Law a lot. He's like in like my favorite movie of all time. Um,
Yeah, you take that back because Gattaca is great.
Gattaca's great, and he's great in it. And I don't think I've ever seen anything where I actively disliked him at all. Uh, so it's kind of weird, but like somebody brought that up. It's like, yeah, whenever you put Jude Law in a movie, it tanks. And I was like, dang it, they're right. Like he kind of does kill these movies. I don't know. I like the guy, but apparently society does not. So it's whatever. But yeah, yeah. So I don't know where I was going with that.
I'll have to look that up later because I'm like, I don't know. For the most part, he's pretty solid. And all right, well, yeah. What else you got for us, man?
Last little bits here on a sadder note and a stranger note for one of these things. Gene Hackman, the actor, and his wife were found dead. I think it was on. It was like February 26th or so, and then I think the news came out about it on the 27th. I could be wrong about that, but it's been pretty recent. And so Gene Hackman in his 90s, and his wife was in her 60s. So I was reading a little bit about this. They're found dead at his home, and the initial news article said that the police were not suspecting foul play, but I was like, "Are you crazy?" And then there was an update to it, and it said that the update said that, and I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it said that there was an unlocked door, like the front door was unlocked. There were pills, kind of strewn about, out of their bottles. I think they had a bunch of dogs or several dogs, and one of them was dead, but the others seemed to be fine. And I think like walking around or something, outside of where they probably should be. And so they are not saying that they suspect foul play, but they are saying that they are that further investigation is underway. And I was like, yeah, that's more like it. I mean, she's in her 60s, he's in his 90s, so it's not really crazy to think that either one of them could die, but the same time is pretty kind of too much.
Yeah.
So so
You'd have to have like a gas leak in the house that like monoxide or something like that
and
that
that's the
does
other
them
thing is
in.
that they looked around and they said there was no gas leak as far as they could tell, but it's early days, so they're going to be looking into it, and we'll just see what they end up finding out. So I saw that and I was like, that is super strange. Not usually what we report on, but it was strange enough. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's very sad.
I mean, yeah, he is a legendary actor. I mean, it's like from the French Connection and up working all the way up, up until the early 2000s. So
I didn't know he's in his
his
90s. He's it's crazy like how long he has been old, you know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so it's just for sure, it's one of those things that growing up watching his movies and stuff like that. So it's it's always sad to see. Granted, hey, that's a long life, and good on him for that. Just hopefully it didn't, hopefully he went out peacefully. Is all you can hope for, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah. So,
Or-
all right, well that's sad to hear.
And then the other
Uh,
thing is that actress who maybe most notably was on the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl, Michelle Trachtenberg, who I first saw, not the actual movie, but the trailers for a little movie called Harriet the Spy. Back when I was a kid, I remember when that was coming out. She was a star of that. She has passed away at the age of 39. there's not too many details, but uh, police are saying that is no there's no evidence, or they're not investigating for foul play, and the family has kind of just asked to be left alone so they can grieve in peace. So that one seems a little bit more straightforward, but yeah, is 39 is very young to pass away. I think I saw a snippet that someone was saying she'd been sick, but I didn't really read any more into it. But it caught my eye because of the young age that she passed away, but also because I I don't for some reason I'm always kind of wanted to, and just for some reason I had the idea to start watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I got a hold of that, and I haven't watched very much of it. I've just been watching it like 10 or 15 minutes of it as I try to go to sleep on my just watching it on my iPad. So it took me like 3 sessions to get through episode one. So it'll probably be a while before I finish it if I ever do. But yeah, so I started watching that, and it's too early. She's not on the show yet, but when I saw that she was in Buffy, and I had just started watching it, I was like, oh dang, small world, I guess. But yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah, actually, all right. So, uh, no joke, Buffy is still a really good show. At least, I highly recommend a lot of people to watch it. It's Joss Whedon before everyone started hating Joss Whedon. So, before he made it big,
Yeah.
the the show's pretty well written. The One of the things I really liked is they have a really good continuity in it. So they'll bring up things like from way back, and like it stays pretty solid. Uh, yeah, I actually remembered her character. Uh, looking up, and I was just like, I didn't realize it was her because I hadn't seen her since like back when she was on Nickelodeon,
Mm.
and I really wasn't that big of a fan. Like I wasn't really that demographic, so when like Harriet the Spy, the movie, like I remember the movie came out in like somewhere between what 96 to 99, something
I
like
think
that.
96.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I just remember like
You were probably just like 1 or 2 years too old for that to be in your wheelhouse. Like,
I also came back from overseas.
yeah.
So so I was overseas, and so the things that I liked or knew like didn't quite mesh with the kids that like when I went to the middle school that I went to. Uh, and so yeah, it was most definitely not my cup of tea. But at the same time, I just I recognized her face, but the I didn't. What I didn't realize is like she still had a really long career doing a lot of movies and shows ever since. And funny enough, like back in 2023, she played a character in the apparently Apple TV did an animated Harriet the Spy, and she's in one episode of that playing just another like just a background character.
Oh,
But
it's funny.
that yeah, it's kind of an homage. I guess they nodded to her then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tragedy, especially going out so young. And she stayed active and busy. It looked like for the most part for a lot of her career. So, uh, yeah, it's a shame that the question of what could have come. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, most definitely. It's like thoughts and prayers to all the families for everyone that passed away. It's a sad thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, impossible pivot. All right. So part of the things we talk about, other than the news, is we talk about the games that we've been playing. And so right now, Nick, what have you been playing?
Yeah. So, I played a game a couple weeks ago that I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I thought it might be all right. Um, um, the game is called Citizen Sleeper, and it's the first one. The second Citizen Sleeper just came out a couple weeks ago, maybe a little longer now than that. But but um, but whenever Citizen Sleeper had come out, I guess a long time ago, the first one, I was like, oh, that looks kind of kind of weird and interesting. And then when the second one came out or was announced and about to come out, I was like, dang, I should have played that. And I think it was like it was like a PS Plus game. So I was like, oh well, I'll just, you know, that's the price is right there. So I downloaded it and made a point to play it. Didn't take too terribly long. I think I was right at the how long to beat time of like 10-ish hours. I think it said 9 and change for whatever. Um, but yeah, so this game is it is it's sort of like I'm trying to think of what to compare it to the most. So you are a so I guess the setting is cyberpunk, but set more in space. You're you're like on a you are on a space station, but the way that you get there is that you like you wake up and you find out through the story. Shouldn't be this shouldn't be too much of spoilers, but you find out through the story early on that you are a um, you are a copy of someone's consciousness. So the real you is asleep in a tube somewhere back on Earth. And the body that you're running around and the brain that you're thinking around with is a I forget the word they use. It's a common word, but basically, it's a it's like a simulation or something. You're just dang, the word is like right there on top of my tongue, but you're basically a copy that's running, and so there's like a corporation that is that is that is trying to find you, and you are trying to get away from them and more stuff like that. And so basically that's kind of the story aspect of it. The gameplay is that it's kind of like a simplified D&D sort of style game where you have like the game gives you choices, and then it gives you a die system from 1 to 6, and you have to spend these die on various actions that you take. Some are higher risk, some are lower risk. And then depending on the type of character that you picked at the beginning, whether you're like an engineer or like a net runner, I forget what they call it, but basically like a net runner, or if you're a just like a hard worker, you have different advantages and different disadvantages. And so you have to go through and make choices and kind of navigate your way through to figure out like how to solve problems, and they put some different things in front of you. They put they put like some main goals and things that existentially your character needs to figure out, or else they're not gonna exist anymore. But then they put a lot of other stuff in there as well, side missions, side quests, with characters and people that if you don't do them, then the person either might die or something very serious might happen to them. So and all those stories are pretty good. I didn't run into any of them that I thought was like completely dumb or pointless. So I was pretty attached to every story that they came up with. But yeah, it was very compelling. I had a lot of. I think the second night that I played it, it really took off for me. And second or maybe the third night, but there was one night where I was like trying to go to bed by like 10 o'clock, and it was like 9. So I was like, okay, I'll play. And like I looked for a little while. I looked up and it was like 10:05, and I was like, dang, maybe I'll just play for like 30 more minutes. And then I looked up again, it was like 11. I was like, yeah, I think I'll just try till like maybe just a few minutes. Yeah, I was up till midnight, and I was like, okay, I got to go to bed because it was like I had to go to work the next day. But um, it was pretty compelling. I was like, dang, this is. There's just something about getting to the next thing and rolling the die like one more time or getting through like one more day, and just sort of seeing what's going to happen next. um, so it's a really well balanced game, overall. It was right up my alley and kind of came out of nowhere. I really wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. Um, so yeah, so I'm pretty excited to play the second one. Probably wait a little bit longer, just some other stuff to get through. Kind of want to forget, sort of, like I kind of want to forget what it was like to play the first one a little bit, um, too. So it's a bit fresher to come into the second one. But yeah, overall a good game, and I would say go watch a trailer for it like always. And if you think it's something that you might kind of like to play, then I would say it's definitely worth a shot because I really liked it.
All right, well, that's really cool. Um, Yeah, I remember when this game came out, I didn't realize I actually didn't realize it was an RPG. I just know that when I saw it, unfortunately there's been so much influx of cyberpunk and any game with the word punk in it, and so I just kind of got lost in the noise of okay, this is just another game like that. But knowing that it's an RPG and has some of those old classic mechanics, seems like yeah, it's more up my alley. And yeah, might actually give that a shot because yeah, I think you're right about the PlayStation Plus because I'm pretty sure that's how I have it.
Yeah.
I know I own it somewhere, so
I mean, it's like, I mean, to beat it is like 10 hours. If you're gonna try to go do more, I think it's like way longer if you try to get everything. I want to say it's like 26 or something hours, but that's completely that I have no idea. But it is way longer to try to get everything, because you have to like replay some stuff. But 10 hours, and you got it, and you see credits, not too bad, and you could probably get in. And if you didn't love it, then you could could still probably play 5 good hours, um, and see the crux of the game and where it's going, and then bounce out if you're like, yeah, I've probably had enough. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty decent, value for time. And I mean, like once I got the system down, because it did take, it wasn't that hard, but like once I got to that first hour or so of like, they kind of give you, like a game has to just kind of give you a lot to read and stuff like that. Once I got through that, it was very compelling. It was just very like, just they did a really good job of going like, you could be getting like, you would probably be getting bored right about now. So now is when we're going to do the next thing. And it's all like reading. Like there's barely any voice acting and stuff like that, but the reading is all just enough. Um, there's like just enough paragraphs for you to be like, okay, I'm interested in this. And right as you're like, I don't know if I want to read one more. Oh, it's over. Okay, and you're on to the next thing, and you can do the next roll, and it's so yeah, it was good.
all right, cool. All right, and outside of this, what I've been playing, I've been told I can't talk to you about this now because Nick wants to
Yeah,
um,
sorry,
be the one to break that seal.
I had to block you on it. But I will play this game that you want to talk about so badly. That because it's not particularly long, so I'm gonna play this game, and then we will talk about it. The embargo will lift. We'll talk about it next week.
Yes, the thing you do to keep friendships. All right, no, it's all right. So, but we've actually been playing as well. Uh, the Arizona Sunshine remake that was on PS VR 2, and we've been using this as a great stepping stone for you to get your VR legs, as between this and you playing Moss, um, and then also you being sick, and then you injuring your leg, and then you being sick again. So this has been a long, like, 2 months journey for this game, It really is. It's not that long, but for the bits that we can play, as you've slowly gotten better and better with your VR sickness, um,
Yeah, I
and
think I made like what, an hour and 20 minutes last night. It was a while. I felt like that we were able to play
yeah,
um,
for sure. I mean, and
compared to
we
before.
finally we finally beat the game, and then we ended up getting into one of the DLC or DLZ as they put it, packs, and it's it's silly, but the game, being the remake, using the Arizona Sunshine 2 engine, and then porting the game over from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2. I've played a little bit of the original because on PSVR 1, and it was all right. It was solid. It was just a fun, zombie game. But I think the fidelity and some of the quality of life stuff they make it a little bit more playable in the PSVR 2 remake. And I'm more interested in your opinions on this because this is uh, pretty much one of the only shooters that you really got a chance to really dive into, right?
Yeah, this is the only shooter I have played extensively on PSVR two. I really liked it, especially after I kind of got my VR legs a bit better. Um, there are some things about it that um, I mean, I don't really know if it's really the game's fault. It's just a matter of getting good with, your uh, with like changing ammo and stuff like that when you're in a panic because there's zombies all around you, which is what the game is kind of there to do. I think there's probably um, some more variation that could have been in the game, but it's not particularly long. So they that they kind of know that, I think. But like a lot of the shooting, I did feel pretty good, and um, it kind of kept you guessing. Uh, so it was fun. It was fun. I think it was more fun because it was co-op. But it was fun enough um, to keep things going, and it was I can see why it's pretty widely regarded as being a pretty good VR game. I'm glad they made it for PSVR two, or remastered it or whatever for VS for two. So it's probably runs a little bit smoother or something. But yeah, I definitely think it's a really good place to start if you have if you have VR, or you just got VR. Which another piece of news was that I didn't talk about is that I think Sony permanently slashed the price of the PSVR two down to 400 now. It was on sale a while ago. That's what I got it for, I think, when it was on sale. But I think they've permanently knocked that price all the way down.
Yeah, they dropped $150 off of it. So, and I believe it's both versions, so the base and the one that comes with Horizon Call of the Mountain bundle, they're both 400.
Oh well, okay. So that's what's some really good value on that. Call of the Mountain one. But yeah, so it was it was pretty good. I do feel like there is plenty of room for growth from that. But this game is what year was AZ Sunshine released anyway? The first one.
The first one. Oh, I I don't remember. I'm gonna say 2021, but I'll have to look that up.
Okay,
Um,
but
yeah, this as far as the mechanics go, I think the feel of the guns are pretty solid. Once you get your aiming honed in, it does take a little bit of learning curve for that as well. And yeah, each gun reloads differently, like true to form. As like if you're a gun enthusiast, you'll like that some of the rifles, like the bullpup design, you'll have to reload behind the trigger, and some of them you'll have to reach around, or like to chamber the round, you'll have to do different mechanics, or hit different mechanisms to do it appropriately. So that's those are pretty neat. Uh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go on. What were you
What?
gonna say?
Well, anyway, I was just gonna say that I'm looking forward to playing Arizona Sunshine 2, to see what they did differently. and how much more that there is, or whatever, to see that advancement, because I did feel like it's like, okay, this is a good start, but there's probably more that can be done to kind of beef it up. So that seems interesting to me. But yeah, I had fun with it overall, and yeah, it was good.
All right. Well, apparently I was way wrong. It was December 6th, 2016, at least when it was first released. It doesn't, but it came out on everything under the sun. So it
So the
was on
remake probably
Oculus.
has a lot of quality of life stuff added in, but I wouldn't
I
imagine
mean,
too much in the way of. So 2016, so like these mechanics and stuff in 2016, that is actually pretty freaking amazing. Um, you know,
now, granted, yeah. So this was done back with when you had like Oculus Rift, the Vive, HTC Vive, Valve Index, all those. It came out on the entire spectrum of VR items. So I'm not sure what the exact date is for the PS VR1 version, but yes, I mean, like I said, the game was pretty neat. I don't remember it being as fully flushed, but once again, I barely got to playing it, and then I got distracted by other PSVR1 games. And then like the moment they mentioned remastering it, it was only like a $10 upgrade. So I was like, oh yeah, for sure, I'm just gonna upgrade it, and I'm glad I did. And I was surprised you jumped in and bought Arizona Sunshine 2 just like before we were even like halfway through Sunshine 1, and I was like, that's great because as much motion sickness as you're getting, I was feeling kind of bad by dragging you through this game at first. So,
No, I was like,
yeah,
okay, this. I was like, okay, we're having fun, and I figured that you wanted it, and I was like, well, we'll definitely play this at some point, maybe not right away, but we'll definitely play it at some point. So that and I bought their earlier game. Dang it, what is it called? Uh,
after the fall.
After the Fall, which you find a lot of copies of in Arizona Sunshine. So I bought that as well. I think it's like a Left for Dead type of game, sort of style or whatever. But anyway, so we'll play that probably at some point as well. But yeah, it was a good 2016. That's pretty wild. They were able to do this in 2016. So yeah. Anyway, I was glad to play it with you, and um, should be good to go on.
Yeah, no joke. Like I said, you've gotten much better. It's one of the things that uh, people don't realize. You do have to get your VR legs. And when you're only playing, if you only play something like Beat Saber or like
Yeah.
Synth Rider, you don't really get VR the motion sickness. It's not until you actually have that free locomotion, and you have to you adapt. You either have click turning, smooth turning. For me, I am annoyed by click turning, so then I have to do smooth turning. But my tip is crank the sensitivity, the speed of your turn as high as possible, because that slow turn is what makes me not feel uncomfortable.
Interesting.
Because yeah, in real life you can turn and as fast as you want and it feels comfortable. Or if you're playing a PC game with a mouse, you're whipping around no problem. But if you're forced to judder slowly, that actually doesn't sit right with me. And there's there's just I prefer not to do teleporting if I can help it. There's other things that you can do to help you in the game or help you in real life. One of the things I always recommend is um, sometimes some people, if you get too warm while playing, get a fan. Have a fan blowing on you. um, and if you need to have your back against the couch or like your calf, right? So you can at least get a placement of where you are at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So the back of your leg, if it's touching your couch, you at least know you won't get too spun around. You don't have to worry about that. I prefer standing, but a lot of times sitting will help a lot of people out. Uh,
I mean, sitting
so
definitely helps with the motion sickness. If I'm playing like a free roaming game, and I'm standing, um, that it's not way faster, but it is definitely a little faster that I will start to feel the motion sickness aspect. I think my body or whatever is used to like driving in a car, even when I'm or riding in a car when I'm not driving. and like that motion around me is like okay. So sitting on the couch and playing kind of has that same sort of thing. But when I'm standing and I'm just like my lizard brain thinks that I'm floating in the air essentially, when I shouldn't be. That's what seems to set it off faster. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that helped get me over it was actually playing Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo only had a few moments where, like, a few spots where you would feel weird. It was usually like cresting a hill and you kind of feel that weightlessness for a hot second. Or if I'm too busy looking around and I'm trying to look at the car next to me. And in the beginning, I remember that being like, whoa, that feels not natural because your brain is trying to tell you you're moving in one way while you're looking another. And you can't feel the momentum. So that's kind of an odd feeling. But it's very doable in my opinion to get used to it. It's just one of those things that you got to do it bit by bit, and you were kind of figuring that out as you were playing other games like Moss and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was trying to get
So
in at least a little bit every day, but I think I've kind of hit the limit on how much just wearing VR and playing a non a non hardcore VR game is gonna do me because so I think I need to start getting into forcing myself to play games that are free roaming every day and getting into. I mean, I try to do as much instant turning or whatever, not click turning, um, or however you want to call it.
smooth criminal, yeah,
Smooth turning, yeah. I try to do as much smooth turning as possible, but that for me that does ratchet it up really really quickly. The click turning is not so bad, but the smooth turning, I can definitely feel that meter like come up pretty quickly on the VR sickness. But that's what I think. So that's what I think I need to hit the most, so that just a little bit at a time, just so that it will probably improve my overall situation.
once again, if you can put the back of your leg against the couch, at least when you're smooth turning in a free roaming like Resident Evil,
Yeah.
it'll help you from getting like woozy a little bit, or at least when you start to tip, if you know that that's there and it's bracing you, it at least kind of grounds you just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a
So if you're
weird
standing,
thing
that is,
because
yeah.
it's not like I feel bad or anything. Like I don't feel like I'm on a roller coaster or anything like that. Really, it's a growing. It's just a growing sense. It's just I think that's just I don't know that, but I'm pretty sure that it can be gotten around.
Yeah, the other tip I would say is it's okay to take breaks.
Hmm.
Like most definitely, if you start to feel it, um,
Yeah,
don't try to fight it. Don't be like I'm gonna, like you can push it a little bit, but don't push it too hard because
yeah,
then it's just gonna really make you feel nauseous, and then when you do step away, you
associated.
won't
Yeah,
be able to get back to it, and that's gonna be your last remaining thought until the next time you play it. Is this, nasty feeling, and it's gonna put you away from wanting to try it again. Uh,
yeah,
Also, get comfortable gear. There's depending on what the games you're playing, if you're gonna get too warm, literally dress lighter or sports at that, like the Under Armour type stuff, wicking stuff. I wear shoes. I wear like my gym shoes essentially. That way, I just stand more comfortably for longer periods of time. The controllers don't last but like 3 hours or so tops. Um, but
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things that, for sure, and even if you're having good session, don't be afraid to just take a little break, and then just take a breather.
yeah,
That it's like the old it's like the old video game notices from Nintendo or something like that. Every hour take a 10-minute break or some joke like that. You're like, yeah, well in this case, it kind of does help.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe like when you're starting out, like every 15 minutes, which is hard, but 15 or 20 minutes when you probably best when you first start to feel it. That's when you should stop, take the helmet off, and then look around for like go to the bathroom, get some water, and then jump back in because that's like enough to bring it back down. It probably also is training. Probably also the best way to train your body to go like this is fine, this is normal. So your body is like, okay, it ended. Okay, we're back in, and then it ended. Yeah.
all right. Well, yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what your next foray into a free roaming game would be.
I really want to
Uh,
play Madison, but daggum, it's freaking scary. It's just, I mean, it's not even like there's really that many jump scares in it so far, which I've only played like a little bit, but it is just the VR aspect of it is so much more. It's just so much more immersive. I mean, obviously, but it's very like I'm just like a naturally jumpy person, um, and uh, it is from the get go kind of. It's not like jump scary so far, really, but from the get go, it is disturbing in sort of weird, unexplainable ways. So I hope I can
The
do that.
ambiance they have is great, and it's plus the sound, and especially when you're closed off, right? You sensory deprivation almost like you don't. Uh, it's one of those things that when I play, my room's lit, and I always, you can see the a little bit of light on the top and maybe the bottom. But when you're in the middle of playing, you don't notice that at all. Like, and
No.
then by the time you stop, you're like, oh yeah, there is light coming in, just leaking a little bit through the mask. But
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. So and just when you like look when you can like turn your head and look around and you're looking around a room that is like a horror type room where just everything is either dark or bloody or just an ugly color. Um, yeah, it's it's the game I want to play the most on VR, and it's the game that is freaking the hardest to play. That's so
all
scary.
right, so we should most definitely live stream you doing this, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it would just be boring because I'm just so painfully slow at it because I'm just like, okay, do this next thing, and I just like creep into it, look around the corner, like creep into it, look around the corner. Okay, I'm gonna do it in 3. Okay, in 5. Okay,
we'll
in
strap a
7.
heart rate monitor to while you do it, so you can see your heart rate in real time, or we'll be able to see it.
I
So,
don't know. Okay.
well, all right. I'm glad that you're getting, you're getting used to it now. But that's good. Madison is a game I won't play probably because I like I like semi horror, I guess. It's like, I like things that are creepy, but straight up horror games. I'm like, especially, I mean, Madison's more than just jump scares, which is I'll give it credit for from everything I've heard,
Yeah.
and I've heard it's a great game. Uh, I just not my cup of tea, man. I mean, you give me something I can shoot at, great, but it's something where I have to run or hide. Yeah, I need to be able to be the fight or flight instinct, and I need to fight because if I can't do that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I don't like to hear, but yeah.
All right. Well, now I guess to what we've been watching. So what have you been watching, Nick?
So speaking of horrible experiences, I watched all 6 episodes of a little limited series called American Primeval. It's on Netflix. Has a bunch of people that you've seen before. I don't really remember a lot of their names, but but this is a TV show, live action, about life in the Utah territory in like the 1800s. They say exactly what year it is, but it's definitely post Civil War, but not too far after it. And it is about um, settlers and Native Americans. And basically, the settlers break down into 2 main groups. There are non-Mormon settlers um, who are kind of just there, just sort of to make a life, and then there are Mormon settlers. Some of them are there to go join like the Mormon, like the larger Mormon contingent out there. Some of them are, kind of part of that, but they're just sort of also making like kind of trying to make their own life. Um, and and then there's the natives who are kind of, you know, sort of like us versus them, trying to figure out how to basically making war with the United States Army and the Mormons and stuff like that. Um, so there's a lot that's kind of going on in the show, really as it starts, and it is very gritty and violent. The first episode is pretty cool, all things considered. Um, there's a lot of violence and um, there's a lot of stuff that happens uh, that is like, whoa, holy crap, they're doing that. 6 episodes, an hour each, not particularly long. And I think that's by design because the show kind of doesn't really ever give you a break. It sort of, the purpose of the show seems to be to show you how bad life was or how primeval or how medieval America was just after the Civil War when they were trying to when we were trying to settle the the Wild West. Um, and it kind of gets. I mean, this first 2 or 3 episodes are pretty well okay, and then there's some things that happen. I think it is in episode 3. There's some things that happen that just get kind of silly, where it's like where it's like you didn't need to have that happen. It's like, yeah, that could happen. That bad thing could happen to that person. Um, but it's like it's just sort of silly, and there's a little bit of a I'll call it t- there's a little bit of torture porn in it that I didn't really appreciate. So I was just kind of like, so in episode 3 I was like meh, and then in episode 4 and 5 and then on in 6 I was just like, okay, yeah, I see what you're trying to do here, and I'm really not. I really don't love it. So I started it for a while ago and took a long break, and then kind of slowly came back to it and slowly like finished it up. So it's hard to recommend it. I think my dad really liked it. I think he thought it was really cool, and it is very hardcore. So if you want to watch a hardcore show about the American, Wild West, then this is probably going to be up your alley. You just better be ready to, um, you know, see bad things happen to the characters that you're watching. Um, Sometimes for basically no reason. But that's kind of the long and short of it. I did think the acting was good. I thought the writing was, the actual words spoken were pretty. The dialogue and stuff was pretty good. The story itself was good overall. Um, just some major stupid choices I thought in the story made at a couple crucial points. Um, but yeah, so um, there is one guy that owns the I like the outpost um, out there at the edge of the Wild West, and he's pretty cool. You've seen him around in different stuff. I forget the actor's name, but he's pretty cool, especially as he's sort of exiting the show in the last episode. Um, but yeah, so it was. I heard it was good, and it looked good. It was promising, but overall, I don't even know what number I would really give this. Definitely not an 8. In some ways, it's like quality wise, like just to eyeball, it's like, oh, this is kind of like a 7, probably at least. But really, with all the issues and stuff, it's hard to think about this as more than like a 6.5, like a 6.5. Um, so yeah. Anyway,
All right. From what I see, uh, it is pretty well liked. So it's like Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 70, average is 87, and that would line kind of what your dad was saying. Um, so it's not, is this supposed to be like kind of like when you say like grittiness, is it supposed to be like harkening to kind of like The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio, that kind of vibe? Because that's at least the images I'm getting kind of remind me of.
I have always wanted to see The Revenant. I've always wanted to want to see The Revenant. But it's like you know how you kind of are with No Country for Old Men, where you just don't want to see it because everyone's kind of talked about how freaking amazing it is. That's kind of the way I am with The Revenant. But from what I understand about The Revenant, from what I've heard, yeah, I think it's along those lines where it's just sort of like violence for violence sake. Um, and it's like, I don't know if, like, I know all those things could happen and did happen to people in that time period, but like not to the same person within this, like the same afternoon, you know, um, or the same week. Um, and that people are
Yeah, but that's like a Pulp Fiction movie. You know, that's
Well,
that's kind of
I mean, people are stupid in ways that they wouldn't be stupid back then. Like people, like the thing about about when these city people make movies about things that they don't understand, they think that everybody in the country or the West or the old days would be as stupid as they are as a city dweller in the 2020s. You know, it's like, no, this person at this age, even if they grew up in a city back then, would have had a really hard life and would like understand a lot more, would be a lot like closer to nature and like one thing that really irks me is like whenever they let actors or the characters just like have like dirt like clotted on their face, and it's like, yeah, I get they're trying to say it's like in the old days, but like people didn't walk around with like dirt just sitting on their face. Like they washed their face. Like if they're yeah, I mean if they're like fighting in the woods, then yeah, I kind of get that. But if they're walking around town, they're not going to just have mud caked on their freaking face. So I kind of get it. It's like a cheap way to like make that, but the people that the people in this show and other shows kind of similar to it, but people in this show, some of the things they do are just like they wouldn't do that. That's stupid, and they have to kind of write it that way. I get, but sometimes it just kind of takes me out of it.
it's. I didn't realize the main character is the same dude from John Carter, from Mars. Uh, I had
He's not like the main character. This is
okay,
sort of a it's a this show is like an anthology, but all put together. Like it's like loosely related, but the main characters, like only a couple of them ever interact with each other, and like they're never all on the same screen at the same time. So you could have made it where like each character has their own full episode probably and done it that way, but instead they cut it all up to make it feel like it's more cohesive.
okay.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, and the only reason why I even saw The Revenant, so for those out there, anytime a movie hits like peak zeitgeist or whatever, everyone or like it's a Oscar bait or Oscar winning, I just end up coincidentally just not getting around to watching them. I just for some reason it's just like, all right, subconsciously I'm like I know like certain movies like No Country for Old Men. I know you're a good movie. There's like everyone says so, but at the same time I'm like, am I in the mood for that type of movie? I'm like, yeah, not really,
It's
or
hard to watch. Yeah.
so that's the thing is like or There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood. A lot of people consider that like a like freaking masterpiece, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen clips from it, and I'm like, that seems really good. It has the one actor who pretty much has only done like a handful of films, but they're all gold, and I can't remember his name now.
Daniel Day Lewis.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's and like that should be under my belt, especially as a it's like a film connoisseur. Like if you remotely want to have any film credit, you need to watch like certain movies. I'm like, yeah, I just can't get to it. I only saw Revenant because I was on the airplane. That is it. Like
Mm,
legit, I was on an airplane going, and when you go from across the Pacific, you only have so many things you can do. And I'm like, I heard good enough stuff about it, so I watched it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I see why people liked it. At the same time, I didn't think it was as good as it was hyped up to be. Uh, and yeah, that was it. I'm like, it's like some of the scenes. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of an intense scene, but at the same time, kind of weird. Like I just, I didn't necessarily think it was. I don't care that like I don't know. I just it's like
Yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio put a lot of effort into it. Good for him. I once said it was just normally not my thing. So that's especially with the new resurgence of uh, cowboy or western like vibe, or like the old getting back to the old gritty ness of things. Whether it be modern grittiness, or like these harken throwbacks. Uh, yeah, I mean it's not really the thing I'll end up watching, especially since I don't have Netflix. But yeah, speaking about things I don't have, I actually, since I don't have Apple TV, I went ahead and tried. I was starting to watch. I ended up getting a copy of the first episode of Severance that you mentioned the other last week. Haven't, but also my family caught. We all got sick over the last week, so hadn't had much time to do anything. Though I did get to have get to watch the opening credits. That song is dope. The the opening little title sequence. It is really good.
for Severance season one.
Never- Yeah.
Okay,
It's the,
I
the
don't think
soundtrack.
I can't remember it, but
Okay.
I've been meaning to. I actually been meaning to go back and rewatch Severance season one, at least, kind of peruse through it. But yeah,
Well,
it's
it was funny enough. I happened to see another video talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm like, all right. After you said it, and after I saw the other video, I'm like, let me give this a shot. And so
it's
that's going to be in my short list here.
well, I would say that if you don't like it after, maybe, I don't know how many episodes are in the first season, but if you get through like the first half of the season and you don't love it, or maybe you only like it a little bit, then I would say maybe you don't have to watch it, because it's definitely not for everybody. Like, I forget if I said this last time, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I have recommended it to other people at like work and other people that I know, and um, a lot of them are just like, I watched a little bit of it and I don't get it. It's like kind of whatever. And I was like, well, and I just kind of was like, well, it's just not for everybody. Even people that I have talked to that did like it, they were like, yeah, I like it. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, they didn't really have too much more
Okay.
to say about it.
Let me tell you, if I don't like it, what I'll do is I'll come out with a bullet point presentation for you of just ripping it to shreds and telling you how wrong you are,
That's kind of what
and
I'm
then
trying to avoid. Is I want
I'll watch the entire 2 seasons, and then I'll come out and I'll spend like half an hour just saying how bad it is and how you're a terrible person for making people watch this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't really want that to happen. So if you don't want to watch it, or if you don't watch it, then that would be fine with me. That's okay, because
All right.
yeah.
Well, like I said, it just happened to be that some, like saw some other videos talking about it. I'm like, all right, well, I'm granted season 2 is out, so that makes sense why it's in the popularity now. But yeah, so hopefully I'll get around to that sometime. And if you made it to this point, thanks, guys. You know, you really probably shouldn't have, but we appreciate it. This has been ADP, episode 116. And Nick, what are the words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
Um, you know, make sure to just don't put all your charging equipment for all your devices in the same place as you have your water cups, because if you spill your water cup, then it's likely to go all over that and become a problem. So don't don't do that
All right. Yeah, keep your house from burning down and save your equipment and hopefully save your life.
simultaneously.
Good job there, Nick. Yeah. All right, then, guys. Until next time, this is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye.